Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you. We're diving deep into intuitive eating, what it is, what it isn't, and how you can start trusting yourself around food again. This topic is so important as we begin a new year, especially with the Lunar New Year right around the corner. That's happening 2 days from today, so on January 29th. And a new moon, a Lunar New Year, and a time for fresh starts and renewal and setting intentions. For so many people, and I'm going to tell you why this topic matters, this topic of intuitive eating, because for so many people, food can feel like a source of stress instead of a source of nourishment. And we live in this world that glorifies diet culture, quick fixes, and unrealistic body standards. But what if I told you that your body already knows how to eat in a way that feels good and supports your health, without rules or restrictions? That is what intuitive eating is all about. And it's what we're going to be exploring today. Pretty exciting, huh? And stay tuned until the end of the episode because I will be announcing something really special starting February 1st. A 21-day journey to transform your relationship with food. Whether you're ready to ditch diets for good, reconnect with your body, or simply find more ease and joy around eating. This program is designed to help you do just that. Okay? So let's dive in. What is intuitive eating? And let's start with the basics. Like, what exactly is intuitive eating? At its core, intuitive eating is about reconnecting with your body's natural cues: hunger, fullness, satisfaction, while breaking free from external rules about what, when, and how much to eat. Can you relate to any of that? Because I know I can, right? I've been through it with this is a really beautiful journey, and it's something I'm embraced, and it's something that I'm excited to cover with you here today. Starting with no more diets. Intuitive eating rejects diet culture completely. And it is not about following rules or counting calories. It's about listening to your body. Because diets create patterns of restriction that often lead to overeating or binging later. And this cycle can leave people feeling like failures when in reality, the diets themselves are flawed, right? And diets can also lead to metabolic damage, slowing down your body's natural rhythms and processes, which makes long-term weight management even harder. And I know you've heard the word like yo-yo diets and things like that. And people go from one diet to another. And that really is something I want to drive home to you, that intuitive eating completely rejects the diet culture. Okay? Now, it's about trusting yourself again. So you said no to diets, and now it's like learning how to trust yourself again. Because many of us have lost trust in our ability to know what we need. Intuitive eating is about rebuilding that trust, to intuitively know what we need. And again, now you guys know, you've heard me say I'm a holistic lifestyle coach, also a life and business alignment coach, but let's focus on the holistic aspect of that. And even with the life and business alignment, we're still taking a holistic approach, because we look at positive, like you're building your business while maintaining positive relationships, optimal health, that's your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, and then building wealth. Those three things. So it's always a holistic approach. And learning how to trust yourself again, it's like that's what intuitive eating is about. This is a holistic approach. Like we're looking at all of this, including let's just keep going and we're going to get into it. Guys, studies show that chronic dieting can disconnect people from their hunger and fullness cues. And that creates long-term dysfunction in your eating patterns, right? You have to be tuned in to your body. Learning to listen to your body takes practice. It does. But it's one of the most empowering forms of self-care. And I know there's one thing that I've told my girls this since they were young is stop. And this is about learning to listen to your body and know your hunger, fullness, satisfaction cues, right? Your body's natural cues. And one of the things that I've taught them is stop when you're satisfied, not when you're stuffed. And just teaching them from a young age to discern the difference between recognizing when their body feels satisfied. And if they were to continue eating, they would go beyond that point of satisfaction until where they felt stuffed. And we all know it doesn't feel good to feel stuffed, right? Because sometimes we do it mindlessly. We'll just keep eating and eating. And then before we know it, we're like, oh man, I ate too much. That doesn't feel good, right? I feel stuffed. So that's one affirmation mantra that you can incorporate into your own life. Stop when you're satisfied, not when you're stuffed. Okay? Now, I want you to also think about the mind-body connection, because this practice really does go deeper than food. It is about honoring your emotions, tuning in to your needs, and nourishing yourself holistically. And when we think, for one, here's an example. Sometimes the weight that we feel we need to lose or gain isn't physical. It isn't on our body. It's emotional or energetic weight that we've been carrying, right? And releasing limiting beliefs and past traumas or unresolved emotions can feel just as freeing as shedding pounds. And here's the thing. Our body, when we are looking at food and when we're not taking a holistic approach and we're not thinking about all of the different ways all of this stuff plays in together, you're missing a big part of it, like the metaphysical part of it. Sometimes, for instance, we have some weight on our body that we feel like we're doing everything and we can't get rid of this weight. These like however many pounds, this extra fat in this one part of our body, whatever it is. And we feel like I'm doing everything. I'm exercising more. I'm running. I'm doing cardio. I'm doing this. I'm practicing yoga. I'm walking every day. I'm taking my 10,000 steps. I'm dieting. I'm doing all the things. I'm not eating the cake. I'm not eating the ice cream, right? Like you're restricting. And you're telling yourself, I'm doing everything, but I just can't shed these pounds. Guys, what I'm trying to tell you is sometimes the weight you want to lose isn't on your body. It's like energetic, like emotional. It's manifesting in your physical body and you're doing these other things. However, and you're restricting yourself from the food and you don't even realize you're just perpetuating the whole situation when it might actually be something that like you kind of have created this suit of armor on yourself. You've subconsciously manifested this extra layer of fat as some sort of suit of armor, some sort of body armor, some sort of protection, maybe to make yourself seem more relatable to someone or to seem so that people won't or to be less appealing to somebody. So maybe you want to protect yourself from being hit on or approached, or maybe it's like truly armor, like you felt attacked or something in some way and you are wearing this to protect yourself. And look, the location on your body also tells you something. Again, this all goes back to metaphysics. So extra weight on your thighs tells you something different than extra weight on your back, which tells you something different than extra weight on your stomach. Each of these locations metaphysically tells us something different about, because they're related to different chakras, like your thighs and your quads and your bum. Like that's all part of the root chakra. And what I'm telling you is this. Sometimes we like get so caught up because of diet culture and everything we've been taught and fed through media or whatever, that you've got this weight. It must be that you have to go on a diet. And you're not even listening to your body. You're not even tuning into your body. You're not even, we just did a episode on meditation, right? You're not meditating and entering the quantum field and doing all this stuff. You're just caught up on restricting yourself and the diet and all this stuff. And you're doing it because maybe your goal is like, I just want to get rid of this weight. And what I'm telling you is, intuitively, your body already knows what to do. Quit making it about the food and the deprivation and the extra cardio and all this stuff. And you got to get to the root cause. And sometimes, yeah, we overeat, and we're going to get into that later. But also, I just want you to hear that there's more to it. And maybe you're on a mission to gain weight. And in the same way, like maybe what you're really doing, like on another level, on not the in your body level, on the energetic emotional level, is like you're trying to gain confidence and you want to gain recognition, or you want to gain success or wealth or health. And so you're saying you want to gain weight, but maybe it's really something else you want to gain. And we'll get into this a little more too, but kind of like when we say, I'm hungry, I'm starving, I'm craving this, I'm craving this cookie. Well, you could be craving success. And you could be like, I'm starving, but maybe you're like starving for love. Or maybe you're hungry for attention. But like until we learn to identify and separate our emotional and our true needs, like we can, all of these words about hunger, even like I said, that was for gaining or losing. Like, can you hear what I'm saying here? And we're going to get more into it. But you have to trust yourself again, right? And many of us have just lost trust in our ability to know what we need. And that's all I'm saying. Intuitive eating is about rebuilding that trust. And yes, learning to listen to your body does take practice, but it really is one of the most empowering forms of self-care that you can do. So food cravings, going back to what I was just saying, food cravings can be signals that we're craving emotional fulfillment and deeper connections, or even like creative expression. And understanding these connections can transform the way we approach hunger. If you say, I'm hungry right now, like, are you hungry for the nourishment of food, or are you hungry for something to do? Are you hungry for attention? Are you hungry for success? And this is just one way you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know what to do next. So you go to the kitchen and just start opening cabinets, saying, I'm hungry. And you're really hungry for something else emotionally. And you haven't identified that yet. So you end up just kind of grazing through the kitchen, right? Been there, done that. Why do you think I'm able to talk about all this? Because guys, I've had learned it. I've lived it. I've experienced it. I've done all the things, right? And this is the way to go. And I want to tell you on a personal note, I wanted to share something personal before we move forward, that you may or may not know this, I have been living a plant-based lifestyle for nearly 8 years now. And this is a choice that feels right for me. And I have experienced so many benefits from it. But I also want to make it clear that this episode and the program that I'm going to share are not about promoting veganism or any specific way of eating. My children are not vegan, and I do believe in honoring what feels intuitively right for each person. Whether you're plant-based, carnivore, gluten-free, somewhere in between, intuitive eating is about learning to listen to your own body and not following someone else's rules. Okay? Now I want you to think about how animals eat. They eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full, and they don't count calories or feel guilty about what they eat. We are born with this same instinct, but diet culture trains us to ignore it. And intuitive eating is about unlearning that conditioning and coming home to yourself and cultivating this really positive relationship with food. So, why don't diets work? Why doesn't diet culture work then? Because again, I would say I bought into diet culture probably in college-y, and I don't know that I really did, but what we did, I was into working out at the time. And when I say I bought into diet culture, I did, because I was real mindful of what I ate. And I was one of the people that did like the quote cheat day, where it was like the one day out of the week where you have your cheat day. And now, where I am now and what I know now, my experience is that that's a pretty toxic way of thinking and living, and it's not what I do anymore, and it's not what I want to do anymore. But what I'm saying is, like, I've lived it. I've been there, guys. I've done all the things. And I know that we have been sold this idea that diets are the answer to health and happiness. But the truth is, diets often create more problems than they solve. And studies show that most diets fail in the long run. And many people, end up worse off physically and emotionally. And partly that is because of the cycle of restriction and binging. And dieting often leads to cycles of deprivation and overeating, which leaves people feeling out of control. And when we know what we know about energy and alignment and our point of attraction and how important our feelings are, because that becomes our point of attraction, and that's where we attract from, like, what we're feeling. If we feel out of control about, like, around our food and what we're eating, like that feeling of being out of control, we're just gonna attract more situations in our life that feel out of control. Because, like, especially if we're living in that place of just constantly really struggling with our relationship with food, to the point that it's like causes stress in our life. Guys, food's not supposed to be a source of stress in your life. It's really not. Okay? So let's keep talking. Another thing that restriction does is it triggers stress in the body. Like, restriction in and of itself increases cortisol levels, and that's going to contribute to weight retention, poor digestion, all kinds of things, and you don't have to restrict. What I'm saying is, like, that doesn't have to be your way of life, okay? And constant dieting really can damage your self-esteem and create a pretty significant emotional impact, especially if you start creating shame around food. And when food becomes a moral issue, people internalize that guilt and shame for eating certain things, which damages self-trust. And y'all know how important the relationship that you have with yourself is. It sets the tone for every other relationship and experience and opportunity in your life. And so if you are, as we all eat every day. I mean, unless you get stranded in the forest or on an island somewhere, like, for the most part, right? We all eat every day. So just imagine if every day when you're eating, you're, like, internalizing guilt and shame. That's going to damage your self-trust. That's going to damage the relationship that you have with yourself. That's going to directly impact and influence every other relationship that you're having too. So it is possible to heal the relationship that you have with food and start to build that self-trust in yourself again, that yes, I do trust myself to intuitively know what my body needs, and I'm going to give it to my body, and I'm not going to feel shame or guilt around it. Guys, you're like, that's going to have a significant positive emotional impact in your life when you can reframe your relationship with food to, like, match that narrative. And I alluded to this earlier, and we're going to talk about it again, that emotional hunger often masquerades as physical hunger. Instead of addressing the deeper needs for love, for connection, for creativity, for whatever, we turn to food for temporary comfort. And this is, like, common. And if this is what you're doing, that's okay. No guilt, no shame. this is like a lesson in self-awareness. Maybe you're hearing this going, wow, I think I do that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like I've never thought about it that way. What? I really am doing that. And so how beautiful that you have this self-awareness, and then instead of feeling shame or internalizing guilt about it, you're like, okay, I can work with this. I have this awareness now. Now I can discern between emotional hunger and true hunger. Is this is this true physical hunger? Is this true hunger? Or is this emotional hunger? And one thing I will tell you, one way to discern is that true hunger kind of happens, it gradually comes on, right? Oh, I'm starting to feel hungry. When's the last time I ate? Oh yeah, it's been a while. Based on my activity levels, I makes sense that I would be feeling hungry now, right? And you can even even though you're feeling hungry, you have time to prepare a meal. Or you have time to go and order a meal and sit down, right? Because you're feeling it come on, and then you can start to make preparations for fueling yourself with food. On the other hand, emotional hunger hits you kind of fast. Emotional hunger is you're just sitting there doing something, and then all of a sudden, I'm starving. Oh my gosh, I got to get something immediately. You feel you just feel it in your stomach, oh, I'm so hungry. If I don't eat right now, I'm going to perish. True hunger doesn't really hit you like that. True hunger is more of a gradual thing. If it's just the sudden hit of, I'm starving, that's probably an indication of an increasing cortisol level. Maybe you had a thought, something happened that's triggering. It's an emotional hunger at that point. And so then you can ask, if you're I'm starving, I'm craving this, what are you starving for? What are you really emotionally starving for? So start to ask yourself these questions. Now, I want to talk about this too, that true health is not just about weight. It's not. It's about how you feel mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And weight is often a symptom, not the root cause, because what we're trying to lose isn't physical weight, but it's stress, loneliness, lack of purpose, scarcity mindset, right? And again, I said this could go, weight isn't a symptom, it's the root cause. What about sometimes the weight we're trying to gain isn't physical weight, but it's attention, success, some sort of love, even in that sense, right? You're trying to gain something, or you're trying to lose something, but it's not always weight, okay? It's not always physical weight. So this is an invitation to shift the focus from weight loss or gain to holistic well-being that creates lasting changes that go far beyond what's on the scale. Okay? When we make food the enemy, we lose sight of what is really meant to be. It's meant to be nourishment. It's meant to be connection. It's meant to be joy. And dieting disconnects us from our natural rhythms. But intuitive eating helps us to rebuild that connection. So, how can you start to practice intuitive eating? It begins with small shifts, with paying attention to your body, with questioning old beliefs, and with giving yourself permission to eat in a way that feels good. So, how can you do that? Number one, Start by noticing ditch the rules, just ditch them. Start by noticing the rules that you have internalized about food and begin letting them go. For instance, labeling foods as good or bad. We're going to stop doing that. We're going to stop labeling foods as good or bad. We can have foods that are nutritious or not nutritious, right? But we're not going to be putting into our head something is bad. And intuitively, your body may be saying, I need lots of nutritious foods to sustain me throughout the day. But then it also might have the opportunity, like you go to the office and someone surprised all of the coworkers by showing up with donuts. A donut is not nutritious, but that doesn't make it bad. If you have this diet culture mentality that a donut's bad, it's going to wreck everything, it's going to ruin everything, but then you really, 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 really want a donut, so you eat one, then you have that guilt about it. That guilt is what I'm telling you guys. More than the donut can manifest itself as extra weight on your body, the guilt, the shame, the narrative that you have about eating the quote bad donut, that is going to affect you more probably than the donut itself. Can you see where I'm going with this? So start noticing the rules that you've internalized about food and begin letting them go. Because here's the thing, a donut might not be nutritious, but if you're mainly eating foods that are nutritious and intuitively, and then like that morning comes and you arrive at work and there's these really beautiful looking, yummy looking donuts sitting out and your coworkers are all enjoying one, and you're like, that looks really good. I want a donut this morning. I want to go enjoy this nice treat. Do it without shame or guilt. It's not bad. Yeah, it's not nutritious, but it's not bad. And this is what intuitive eating is all about. It's just about connection and joy and releasing the shame and guilt around food. And also tuning into hunger and fullness, and practice recognizing when you're hungry and when you've had enough, right? Remember that mantra I tell my girls, stop when you're satisfied, not when you're stuffed. And so you might be like, oh my God, that donut is amazing, but we're going to talk about this in a minute too. But maybe you eat the whole thing, maybe you don't. We're not just going to scarf it down. We're going to tune in to our hunger, our fullness. We're going to recognize maybe half's all I need right now, right? Or it's okay to leave a bite on the plate. Just because there's one last bite doesn't mean I have to always have the last bite, because maybe that's part of the rules that you've had. Maybe you grew up in the house where it was like, you have to clean your plate. You have to finish. Don't waste food. And they wouldn't let you get up from the table until you finished everything on your plate, even though so you were almost being conditioned to ignore your own hunger cues because parents were forcing you to finish what was on your plate. We're not going to waste the food. You ordered this, you're going to eat it. And you're like, I'm full. I don't want any more. But they're forcing you to go beyond. So do you understand what I'm saying? There's so many things here. And this is all a practice and about getting to know yourself on a deeper level. And so I want you to also find satisfaction, focus on foods that truly satisfy you, not just foods that you think you, quote, should eat. Well, salads are healthy. I should eat salads all the time. Well, does a salad satisfy you? And salads do satisfy me. I put protein on top, beans and different things that I make. And I love a good salad with all kinds of veggies and nuts and seeds. And yes, it satisfies me. Maybe a salad doesn't satisfy you. Don't eat it just because you think you should. There are so many options out there that will that you can choose things that satisfy you. You don't have to settle, not in relationships, not on a career, not with your food, okay? Now, I want you also to embrace mindfulness, because remember, I'm giving you some actionable steps on how to start practicing intuitive eating. And one of them is by embracing mindfulness. Slow down. Savor your meals. Notice how your body feels. There is something that I often say. I know I've read it somewhere. I don't remember who said it. But like, when you're eating, eat. Right? In other words, I'm not eating with the TV on. Right? I'm not sitting there with that on, just mindlessly eating. I'm paying attention to my food. And even when I'm home alone, I like to light the little candle on my table, and I like to, I might have some music on in the background just for atmosphere, for whatever. But I'm going to light the candle. I'm going to have my water. I'm going to have my food plated. Even if I pick up food from a restaurant, or if anything was delivered, if anything like that, I always plate my food. I will not eat out of a to-go container. Plate my food. I want the whole experience. I want to slow down. I want to chew really well and not just be like, trust me, I've lived a lot of my life scarfing down my food. Like, how fast can I eat? Like, feeling like I only got 5 minutes. Gotta eat on the run, eat on the go, eat in my car between here to here. And these are all things that I'm going to invite you to. Do you want to bring that into 2025 with you? Maybe you're in a season of your life where you feel like you don't have another option but to eat fast food from point A to point B on the car, because you can't even, you're just so busy that's all you can do. And if that's the season of life you're in, friend, I love you. This too shall pass. I hope that that's not the season you're in. I hope you don't feel like your life is so busy that you can't even slow down to enjoy a meal that you're not trying to eat while you're also driving. Okay? Because you deserve that. So ditch the rules. Tune into hunger and fullness. Find satisfaction. Embrace mindfulness. And just slow down. Savor your meals. Notice how your body feels. Okay? I'm going to wrap it up. I know this might be the shortest episode yet. And I thank you so much for tuning in today. And I really do hope that this episode has inspired you to approach food and eating in a more compassionate and intuitive way. Because remember, this is about more than what is on your plate. It's about coming home to yourself and nourishing your whole being. And don't forget, the 21-day intuitive eating journey starts February 1st. And this is your chance to break free from food rules, reconnect with your body, and embrace a more peaceful relationship with food. I will see you there. Details in the show notes of how you can join. And until next time, take care of yourself, keep living in alignment, and I love you, friends. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditThenRealLifedIt.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.